Yeah, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. You know what's crazy? Everybody I met was a listener. My doctor, I went to the doctor. First time I've ever met this guy. He goes, "Hey, I listen to you every day." I was like, "Holy shit, that's awesome." Well, that's a good sign. And then I went and got a sandwich at Jersey Mike's. Tim, the guy who served me the sandwich, listener. And then my haircut lady, Ming, she's great. She loves the show. Hey, everybody, welcome to Vince. Great to have you with us on a Wednesday. Man, we've got so much going on in the world, including brand new information about the effort to bring the Russiagate criminals to justice. The New York Times has some new information on this. They think it tells us that Donald Trump is a tyrant. The rest of us know that it's the tyrants that we're pursuing. I've got the details all ahead on this edition of Vince. It is so great to have you with us today. Before we get into the details of the show, well, we got to thank the sponsors. They're the ones who make all of this happen. Thank you to Birch Gold Group for all of your great support here. Could the continued divide between Trump and the Federal Reserve put the rest of us behind the curve? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? And what could all of this mean for your savings? Well, consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. Yes, indeed. Because for decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you've got an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert it into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold's going to send you a free info kit on gold. Text my name, Vince, to the number 989898. Again, text Vince to 989898. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. That way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead for yourself. Birch Gold. That's Vince to the number 989898. Data and message rates apply. Oh, yes. Okay, so here's what I want to get into today right away. This will be a grab bag of stuff today, fellas, because we have very interesting information coming out all over the place, including from the New York Times. Now, let me caution you, as I do a New York Times story, you probably have the same thought that I do, which is like, how can we believe the New York Times? And there's a trick to reading the New York Times that you should be aware of. And here's how it works. The New York Times is going to take information that is either given to it or that they gather, and then it will spin it in such a way that they present it in order to try and hurt Republicans and Donald Trump. It happens every time you read a New York Times piece. It happens throughout. There's all this editorializing and prejudice built into the piece, designed to lead the reader to certain conclusions that oftentimes are completely wrong and completely politicized. That said, though, kind of like a truffle pig, you can search through this article and you can find the stuff that actually matters. And boy, I think I've found some truffles for you today inside of this New York Times reporting. I'm going to take you to the piece that came out overnight. This is about Russiagate, and this is about what the Justice Department is up to right now. The Justice Department, the Times alleges, has broadened its inquiry into key players in the Russia investigation. Broadened its inquiry. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the telling of the New York Times, it means that Donald Trump is trying to hurt his political opponents, and he's got no basis for doing it. They say, pursuing a theory promoted by Trump loyalists, no, supported by the facts, the Justice Department is investigating whether FBI officials during and after the Biden administration tried to hide or secretly destroy documents that might cast doubt on the earlier inquiry into Russia's attempt to tilt the 2016 election in President Trump's favor. Two people with knowledge of the matter said. All right, so right away, the Times is saying up front that what you're about to read is a bunch of information about a tyrannical Trump administration that's abusing its power. The first paragraph is trying to prejudice the reader towards that conclusion. But I'm not there. I'm not there because the facts support a full-blown investigation into these tyrants and prosecutions and convictions. Yes, and sentences. That's what we need here. And so the Times is indicating something very big is going on, and this is driving the left crazy. They say the steps that have been taken by the Justice Department are the latest in a series of efforts by Mr. Trump and his allies to impugn the Russia investigation. to impugn it. No, it's to bring justice to the tyranny. Again, they lie to you, which the president sees as having been a partisan witch hunt, which it was, that unfairly dogged him, which it did, throughout his first term. Yeah, that's when it happened, and beyond. The new inquiry seeks to determine if senior FBI officials spent years working to cover up the misdeeds of James B. Comey, the FBI director at the time of the Russia investigation, and John O. Brennan, who was then the CIA director, after those two men left government by squirreling away potentially damaging classified documents. Now we're getting somewhere. So now you have the John Brennan investigation. Now you have the James Comey investigation coming out more into the sunlight as the New York Times is complaining that it's happening. They say the disclosures are bringing into sharp focus how Kash Patel, the FBI director, is intent on substantiating the claims that Mr. Trump has peddled to his base, that he was framed by the Obama administration. This is supported by every last detail that we know. We know that Barack Obama assembled all of the top officials within his government to rig a Russia intelligence community assessment into saying that Donald Trump was the recipient of Russian help, that he was involved in meddling, including the Steele dossier in that intelligence community assessment, slandering the incoming president of the United States, trying to lock him up with a special counsel investigation, staggering that first presidency by Donald Trump. We know these things not to be theories, not to be claims, but instead to be facts. And so what you and I want is prosecutions. And how do we get there? Well, we get there the right way. We get there with an investigation, a grand jury, and indictments. That's how you start with these things. And that is what I'm here to tell you is happening today in this New York Times piece. They say the investigation is examining the conduct of the Bureau's former deputy director, a guy called Paul Abate, a veteran agent who served in the role throughout the Biden administration and stepped down on January 20th. That's right. They're also examining conduct by other senior FBI officials in the Bureau's headquarters this year. Whoa. Other senior FBI officials in the headquarters this year. Well, this year would include the lead up to the inauguration and then beyond that. Beyond that. So who are we talking about here? Who has been meddling within the FBI in order to cause trouble while Dan and Kash have been at the top of this agency? One person familiar with the investigation said the prosecutors and agents appear to be investigating claims in an article published in July by Fox News that said thousands of pages of documents related to the Russia investigation had been found in burn bags at the FBI. Okay, this paragraph is jacked up beyond reason for a bunch of reasons, but here's a key one. They're not investigating claims in an article. That's not, Fox News is reporting on something that actually occurred. This is not a secret. It is a stunning revelation that it wasn't Fox who said this. It was Dan Bongino and Kash Patel who have said this, and other serious people who want to get to the bottom of it. They said they found a room full of documents destined for destruction that had not been destroyed. They'd been kept inside these burn bags to be incinerated, but somebody had squirreled them away in a room at the FBI that Dan and Kash found. And when they found it, they went through it. And when they went through it, they discovered all sorts of really important and damning information about Russiagate, the people who were running the FBI in the past. That would include, of course, James Comey, and the way that they abused their power. Among those documents, we now know, was the Durham Annex, the classified annex to the Durham report, which has revealed staggering amounts of the misdeeds of the Obama administration. So this isn't just they're investigating claims by a random Fox News article. That's not what they're doing. They're investigating what the top officials at the FBI, now led under President Trump, have discovered inside the building. They go on to say that the suggestion that placing paper documents in any containers could amount to hiding or destroying classified information is odd, given that such data has been maintained on computer servers for many years. Okay. They're just the New York Times, as I pointed out at the top, they're going out of their way to mislead you about all of this. That Durham annex was in the classified documents in the burn bags. That was the FBI's copy, and they were going to destroy it. That was the plan. It was only thanks to this director and deputy director and the team that's actually working with them to bring us the truth that they stopped that from happening, that they salvaged this document and made it public. A Justice Department spokesman did not immediately comment. Mr. Bate did not immediately respond to a message seeking comment. Yeah. On and on here. So let me move to where this investigation is taking place. This is a big detail. This is a very big detail. Remember, we don't want a grand jury being launched in D.C. Nope, not happening. This is what the left does. When the left wants to hurt Republicans, they launch grand juries in D.C. and have them do it there because they know it's a rigged system. Almost everybody's a Democrat in the city. The whole point is to get that rigged system and use it as a weapon against Republicans, regardless of whether or not they committed any crime whatsoever. That's what happens. When you try and bring a case against a Democrat in a Democrat-rigged city like D.C., you understand how this goes. It's not going to go well. And so the trick to all of this is get it outside of the District of Columbia. Now, early on, you and I were talking about this and saying, Florida. Why not Florida? Have it there. Because the raid on Mar-a-Lago is a part of this grand conspiracy stretching out all the way back to 2016, even before that. If you include the Mar-a-Lago raid, then you could just do this bad boy in Florida. That would be great. We've got a lot of great Americans in Florida. Florida will take this seriously. They'll bring the charges that are necessary in a fair grand jury process. Yeah, that would be good. It would be good if it was Florida. But we've since found out that grand juries have been impaneled, John Solomon has reported, 4 of them in a variety of states, to include places like New York, that's where Letitia James is, New Jersey, not New Jersey, forget that, New York, Pennsylvania, which has always been an interesting one. Why Pennsylvania? And does that have anything to do with the 2020 election? Interesting. And then in Virginia. Virginia is a place that these grand juries have been impaneled. Now, if you're from Virginia, you probably know this already, but if you're not from Virginia, you may not. But Virginia should not be judged on the basis of Northern Virginia alone. If you're thinking about the state of Virginia, you're like, where are all the Democrats at? The Democrats are in the D.C. area. They're either inside the Beltway or just outside of it. That's primarily where the Democrats in Virginia are all concentrated. We call that area Northern Virginia. Now, if I got my way, that portion of Virginia would be part of Washington, D.C. again. I would give back all of that area of Virginia to Washington, D.C. It used to be, long ago, if you ever look at a map of Washington, D.C., it looks like it's kind of a square except for the Virginia side, which is just a part of Virginia. If you finish the square, huge sections of left-wing Northern Virginia get sucked right back into Washington, D.C. And that would be wonderful. We should do that. Take away their ability to have United States senators representing their interests. Take away their ability to distort the politics for the rest of the state. The people who live in that region are by and large entirely dependent on the nation's capital. That's where they generate their income from. So make them a part of D.C. Make them a part of D.C. Yes, and make squares great again. I totally agree. I love that. But here's the trick. The rest of Virginia is a red state. It's a red state. It's conservatives. It's Republicans all over the state. So that's another way of saying it's a sane state. It's the kind of state that you want a grand jury impaneled if you want a fair assessment of whether or not someone broke the law. And here we get information today from the New York Times that I think is very, very valuable. We have found a truffle in this piece, and here it is. The investigation is based in Charlottesville, Virginia, more than 100 miles away from where the events at issue took place. And officials have justified placing it with that office because of an FBI document storage facility in Winchester, Virginia. According to people familiar with the matter who described the case on condition of anonymity to publicly discuss it. Well, that's huge. This is not on accident. You think Dan and Cash don't realize what they've done? Oh, no, they know. They definitely know. You think the Justice Department is just winging this? Oh, no. They know exactly what they're doing here. They've launched this thing near the FBI's document facility in Winchester, Virginia. Huge. Don't underestimate me here. Huge, this detail. Some Trump administration officials have been reluctant to impanel grand juries in the District of Columbia, the Times says. This is getting back to what I just said. In high-profile, politically sensitive cases, out of concerns that jurors and grand jurors will be resistant to cases against Mr. Trump's perceived foes. The U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, which includes Charlottesville, Todd Gilbert, abruptly resigned last week, only a month after being appointed to the job. The office has declined to give a reason for Mr. Gilbert's sudden departure. Man, oh man, I am adoring the direction that this story is heading. There is drama going on in the Western District. There's an investigation going on in the Western District. I want to see indictments from the Western District. The investigation has drawn on prosecutors in the Eastern District as well, which is more experienced in national security cases, and FBI agents from multiple field offices, these people say. The premise of the investigation is that classified documents related to Russiagate were mishandled on the 7th floor of the J. Edgar Hoover building in downtown Washington, where the director and his senior aides work. Got that? Russiagate documents were mishandled by the 7th floor. That's James Comey. That's the director of the FBI. That's what that tells us. You love truffle hunting? I love truffle hunting. Let's just keep diving through this. One of the investigators who was working on the inquiry is a guy called Jack Eckenrode, who's a former FBI agent who endorsed Kash Patel to become the director. Mr. Eckenrode, this is a senior guy. He's been around for a long time. Mr. Eckenrode, who worked for John Durham, he worked on the Durham investigation. He was brought back to the FBI to help Kash unearth the wrongdoing. Oh, so you got it. So Eckenrode is an experienced old hand at the FBI, and right now he's being a bit of a Sherpa to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to help them unearth the wrongdoing inside of the Bureau. They say Mr. Trump has long sought to take the criminal justice tools used to investigate him and turn them against those who handled those investigations. Yes, rightfully so, because they violated the law and he didn't. So they go on here. There's a lot of yada, yada, yada in the rest of this article. But the thing that I really want to focus on, here's the sentence. This is the one I want you to know. This is the one that stands out the most to me. This is where the headline for this article should have come from. In his second term, Mr. Trump and his senior aides have pushed to open a host of investigation into their perceived enemies. No, their actual enemies who broke the law. But the investigation in Western Virginia is one of the more elaborate and potentially far-reaching. So in summary, what this reveals to us today is that the FBI has launched an elaborate and far-reaching investigation into the origins and cover-up of Russiagate. It concentrates on document destruction and concealment done by the 7th floor of the FBI. The investigation has not been launched in Washington, D.C., but instead in the Western District of Virginia, the location of an FBI document storage facility. And the reason it is so clear that that's occurring is because this administration wants to successfully both impanel a grand jury and secure indictments against people who deserve them. You want facts? I just gave them to you. I dug them out of a New York Times article that was looking to mislead you. And boy, I'm excited to see what happens next. This is good. This is very good. Much more ahead on the Vince Show. This is Vince. The Vince Show is the radio show. I get them confused sometimes. You should check out the radio show, 12 to 3 every day, nationwide, 12 to 3 Eastern time. You can do that, rumble.com/Vince, or go to thevinzshow.com for your local radio listings. It is so great to have you with us, though. This is great. The best damn audience in media. You are really great. Red Laurie says, great info, Vince. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm digging it. Hey, we've got more FBI news for you actually today, in case you want it. If you want more FBI news, I've got some stuff for you. All right. If you've been living on credit cards by any chance, just to cover groceries, gas, bills, you know those interest rates are totally brutal. Why keep paying 20% or more to the banks when you could call my friends at America Financing? American Financing, they've got mortgage rates in the fives, and they're showing people every day how to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket and right out of the hands of the credit card companies. Right now, American Financing is helping homeowners save an average of $800 a month by using their home equity to wipe out high-interest debt with no upfront fees, no obligation, just a 10-minute call to a salary-based mortgage consultant. And here's the kicker. If you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, putting even more cash in your hands right away. Now, don't wait. Call American Financing now at 888-879-6460. That's 888-879-6460. AmericanFinancing.net/Vince. AmericanFinancing.net/Vince. NMLS number 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the fives starts at 6.327%. For well-qualified buyers, call 888-879-6460 for details about credit costs and terms. Thank you to American Financing for supporting the program. Okay, let's see. Vince looks so much better with his eyebrows relaxed. Are my eyebrows often tense? Is that what you're telling me, D. McKillen? The tense eyebrows? I don't even know how to tense my eyebrows. How do I relax them? What am I doing? Screwing with my face here. Why'd you say that, D. McKillen? Now I'm all self-conscious. Okay. The eyebrow lift is? I can only lift the left eyebrow. What is that? Is there a biological term for that when you can only control one half of your body? I can't get the right to go up. The only way I get the right up, I tilt my head that way. No shot. The left pops up. That's how I get the rock look. All right, let's see what else I've got. Oh, actually, on the issue of documents being burned, Tulsi Gabbard just said yesterday. Did you guys see this gigantic cabinet meeting the president had? He had He did it for 4 hours yesterday. The press was in the room for over 3 hours yesterday. You want to talk about transparency. He's had a cabinet meeting every month of his presidency, every single month. So yesterday was the 7th cabinet meeting, extensive. He goes around the table, has all the cabinet officials speak. And Tulsi Gabbard has some interesting things to say. Tulsi Gabbard said that they are finding more classified documents that were put into burn bags and there was an effort to destroy them. And it seems pretty clear to me that whoever's taking these burn bags and stopping the documents from being destroyed, those are the good guys. Those are the unnamed white hats. They're the people who are finding these documents and saving them for the American people. Here's Tulsi Gabbard, cut 10 yesterday on burn bags that she's finding.
We are finding documents literally tucked away in the back of safes in random offices in these bags and in other areas, which again speaks to the intent of those who are trying to hide the truth from the American people and trying to cover up the politicization that was led by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and others that have caused really immeasurable harm to the American people and to our country.
Here's a point of encouragement. You ready? Tulsi Gabbard just mentioned 2 names, John Brennan, James Clapper. Brennan, the former CIA director, James Clapper, the former head of national intelligence, the job that Tulsi now has. Anybody else encouraged by the fact that we keep hearing Comey, Clapper, and Brennan brought up over and over and over again? Comey, Clapper, Brennan. Comey, Clapper, Brennan. Comey, Clapper, Brennan. Over and over, the Justice Department keeps bringing it up. Leaks to the press keep bringing it up. The FBI keeps bringing it up. DNI Tulsi Gabbard keeps bringing it up. President Trump keeps bringing it up. That's a good sign. Those are the kinds of names that I like hearing. Let's talk about those guys. You know, it's one thing to put Kevin Kleinsmith in handcuffs for 8 seconds and then slap him on the wrist. That's the FBI lawyer who changed documents. He literally defrauded the FISA court in order to go after Carter Page. And then he got a wrist slap for that. Okay, Kevin Kleinsmith, we didn't know his name until we found out he was a bad guy, and there were no consequences of any meaning for him. We're in a different era now, and I'm liking this, that we hear Clapper, Comey, Brennan. Let's see the mugshots. Let's see. Yeah, what did Highway Dogs got it? Let's see all 3 of them in handcuffs. Handcuffs. Please. I beg of you. Handcuffs for those guys. Not for unfair reasons, but for entirely fair reasons. Let's get them. So Tulsi's finding more documents. That's good news. Tulsi loves declassifying stuff, and I love when she does it. That's one of her superpowers. She's very good at that. And then I've got one more piece of FBI news for you, and then we'll move on to some other things because I got to talk about crime and the president's effort to tackle it in the country. But in addition to the crimes we're talking about right now, we do have an update on the FBI and the whistleblowers. Now, you remember back to the Biden era, we had a number of whistleblowers who stepped forward and told us some really important information about what was happening inside of that agency. That was great. Great testimony before Congress. Wonderful stuff. Important. And these guys took a lot of risks by doing that. And for that, I'll always be eternally grateful. Grateful to them. There's been questions, though, since the Trump administration began about, well, how are the FBI whistleblowers going to be made whole? How are we going to take care of these guys? What's going to happen? And this past week, we saw FBI Director Kash Patel come out with a statement saying that they've reached a settlement with all of the whistleblowers. Now, we're 7 months into the Trump presidency. We've reached a settlement with the FBI whistleblowers in order to make them whole after the ways that the left abused them. And we got more information from the Washington Times yesterday on this, and Chuck Grassley. Carrie Pickett, great reporter, reporting at the Times, FBI whistleblowers settlement finalized by the Justice Department and the Bureau. And nearly a dozen FBI whistleblowers who say that they endured retaliation during the Biden administration inked agreements on Monday of this week with the FBI and the Justice Department to have their security clearances reinstated and to collect back pay. Love it. The 10 whistleblowers and their attorneys have been negotiating their settlement agreements with the Justice Department and the FBI to restore their law enforcement credentials and receive compensation for the time that they spent indefinitely suspended without pay. Among the FBI whistleblowers that have been identified as a part of this process of negotiating settlements have been Stephen Friend, Garrett O'Boyle, Moneta Schillingberg, Zachary Schaufstall, and Michael Zoomer. Several of the whistleblowers are represented by the legal defense group Empower Oversight. They're great, by the way. Empower Oversight, great organization. Empower Oversight applauded the resolution of 8 whistleblower retaliation cases, which now resolves all 10 of the longstanding client disputes with the FBI. So here you have the FBI making things right with the whistleblowers, which is good news. The settlements represent more than 12 years of suspended days corrected by these agreements. That's wild. 12 years of punishment to these whistleblowers. They're getting taken care of here. Now, they say in terms of the actual settlement agreements, none of them required any resignations as a condition of the agreement. 4 of them involved or facilitated voluntary retirements, meaning that the agents, they were whistleblowers and they just want to take their retirement and go on their way, be with their families. Good for them. All include lump sum payments for damages. They're being made whole for the damage that was done to them. 4 of them require full restoration of back pay and benefits to be calculated according to something called the Back Pay Act. And then they say that there are 3 of them. Here's the other big one. 3 of the agents, 3 of the employees are returning to duty, including Mr. Friend, Mr. O'Boyle, and Mr. Schaufstall. And Mr. O'Boyle said he's grateful to finally have a measure of resolution in his case. So in case you're wondering, what's the status of these guys? What is going on behind the scenes? I think there was some thought in public that nothing was happening. There was no settlement coming, that they were never going to be made whole, that they had somehow been sold out or something. It turns out the answer is they've been made whole. They've been brought back to the extent that you can. I mean, imagine just going through all of that, what that must be like for yourself and for your family. It's got to be a nightmare. But to the extent that it's possible for the Trump administration to intervene here and make them whole, the news this week is that has happened. And a couple of these guys are headed back to the FBI. Steve Friend is a guy who I have very frequently reflected on his testimony, his whistleblower testimony, because I remember he was talking about, the extent to which they were working on child predation cases in the FBI, actual serious crimes they were trying to get to the bottom of. And they were taking off those cases to go after American citizens, to sit in parking lots and write down driver's license numbers of parents who showed up at school board meetings. Insanity. And it's thanks to the whistleblowers that we found out so much of that information. So again, for that, I'll always be eternally grateful. I'm glad to see some resolution in their case here. That's good news and a huge sign of the change of culture and leadership at the FBI, the Department of Justice, and of course in the Trump administration for President Trump to be there. So great news on that. Okay, I've got more ahead for you, including the crackdown on street crime in the United States. Not just the tyrants who've been abusing their power in the government, but the cruel people who are on our streets who need to be removed from them and the president's efforts to do that. That's all ahead on this edition of Vince. I got to thank the people who helped make this show possible. That includes Beam. Beam's Dream Powder. You know, a while ago, I found that I wasn't getting the sleep I needed, and I'd wake up the next day on fumes. I just dragged myself through the day. I thought, man, I got to figure out something that can help me here. And that's when I found Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values: hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep, so you can actually wake up refreshed and ready to take on each new day. Dream is made up of a powerful blend of all-natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. And here's the deal. Beam is giving you the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. You can try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Just go to shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use the code Vince Show at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use the code Vince Show for up to 40% off. Shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Thank you to Beam. Thank you so much to Beam. All right. Let's see. The crime problem. The crime problem is immense. Oh, I have one more live read. Have to share this with the people? Okay. Well, the crime problem is immense. I'll tell you more about it in a second. Sorry for the false alarm. But here, you know why I got to talk to you about Bone Charge. Bone Charge is really amazing because they've got an infrared sauna blanket that I use at home. I use it all the time. This thing is really good. It works really, really well. Never in my life did I think I'd have some sort of sauna in my house. I do, thanks to the Bone Charge infrared sauna blanket. And my wife has the Bone Charge red light face mask that she wears each and every night. So while I get the infrared heat to work its magic on my body, she gets the amazing red light face mask, which helps improve your skin's texture, reduces inflammation. Allison thinks it creates fantastic results, and so do I. It's like having a mini spa treatment right at home. So if you're thinking about trying either of these products out, the sauna blanket, the infrared sauna blanket, or the red light face mask, you're in luck. Head to bonecharge.com, use the code Vince at checkout, and get 15% off. Both of these products have made a positive impact on us and our wellness routines. I'm sure you're going to love them too. Use the code Vince. Just go to BoneCharge, that's BONCharge.com, promo code Vince, and save 15%. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Thank you, Bone Charge. Great company. Great, great company. Okay. Let's see. All right. I've got crime stories to cover. So the president is we had a good run in D.C. We had a very good run in D.C. So far. The president's been in charge of the cops for a couple of weeks, and it's resulted in a dramatic decline in murders. Yesterday was day 12, and unfortunately, there was one homicide yesterday, a shooting. So the record has been broken for now, which is the days without a homicide was reset to 0 yesterday. But that is such a huge change of pace from where we used to be. I guess probably the left was celebrating this yesterday. Finally, a murder. Trump's been stopping all the murder. We need a murder to embarrass Trump. So they got what they wanted yesterday, another human death, which is awful. But things in D.C. have been moving in the right direction. And, of course, the left is absolutely going crazy about all this. They're pretending like this is tyranny. This is really bad news for us. And they whip the mentally ill people who follow them into a frenzy such that they straight up are attacking law enforcement. You remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a dude who threw a Subway sandwich right into the chest of a police officer, and then he got arrested. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. This week, we get another one of these stories. This psychotic leftist riding a scooter boy, drives up to 2 National Guard troops and then hocks a loogie on them, spits on them. Take a look, cut 9 at this crazy scooter boy who went after a couple of the National Guard guys.
According to court documents, Scott Pichon came up to two South Carolina Army National Guard soldiers. And this is pretty nasty, folks. He allegedly made a noise like he was coughing up some mucus and spat at them. Authorities say the saliva and mucus mixture landed on one soldier's face and the other's neck. Yuck. Pichon was arrested on Tuesday. He faces a felony assault charge.
How badly do you think those troops wanted to just knock that dude out? Just ball up a fist, crank it into his lower neck, just right beneath his chin. Perfect spot. You hit him right there, out cold. Just have him sucking wind on the sidewalk, drooling into the pavement. What an asshole. I'm sorry. That guy drives up on his little scooter and spits on two members of the National Guard. That's the justice he deserved. Now, we found out a little bit more about who this idiot is, and it's typical. It's a typical white-collar, lefty jackass. He's a lawyer. He's a lawyer from Maryland, it turns out. The news on this guy's coming out. Let me show you this. This is WUSA 9, local CBS affiliate in Washington, D.C. Of course, I screwed up. Lawyer charged with spitting on two National Guardsmen at Union Station. A Maryland lawyer faces a felony assault charge for allegedly spitting on two members of the National Guard at Union Station last week, just after 4:40 p.m. Friday afternoon. These are two guys from South Carolina, National Guard members, patrolling in uniform outside a Union Station when a man, barely a man, identified in charging documents as Scott J. Pichon, rode up to them on a Lime scooter. An Amtrak police officer called Sergeant Robert Underwood said he heard a noise like Pichon, summoning a loogie. That's what he was doing. And then he spit saliva and mucus onto the two National Guardsmen. One he struck in the face, the other in the neck. Pichon is 33 years old. He was arrested on a federal warrant Tuesday. He made his initial appearance in court on the same day on felony charges of forcibly assaulting and making physical contact with the National Guard members. During the hearing, Harvey asked Pichon, this is the judge, to verify his highest level of educational attainment. Juris Doctor, Pichon said. Maryland State Bar records show Pichon has been licensed to practice law in the state since 2019. So you think this guy didn't know it was assault? You think this is... No, of course he knew. He's an attorney. He knew exactly what he was doing when he assaulted these members of the National Guard. He's just so emotionally incontinent, he couldn't keep his disgusting mucus down his throat. He instead spit it at the guys who were making his nation's capital safer. That's how much mental illness is out there. A guy who should know better, who is an attorney, spitting on members of the National Guard for improving this city? Even if you disagreed, as he obviously does, with the National Guard being there, one would think an adult who is 33 years old, who is an attorney, could render the judgment that those two guys in the National Guard didn't make the independent decision to secure the city, that they were ordered to be there. So you spit on them? You utter jackass. And so this guy is getting what he deserves, and he should get a lot more. Not only should they go after him for a felony, he should be imprisoned for this, of course. He should have his law license completely stripped, be disbarred, the whole 9 yards for that kind of behavior. There need to be very big consequences for this kind of thing. And, it keeps happening. The left is angry that Trump is stopping the murders. Think about it. Honestly, what are they upset about? They're upset that the crime is diminishing. That's what they're upset about. It's mental illness. It's mental illness. The president of the United States has been talking about going to Chicago and helping out the Windy City. He'd like to move this effort to Chicago as well. I know there are people out there who've said, well, Vince, the president has big powers in D.C. because it's a federal district that he doesn't have the same powers in a place like Chicago. That's true. He doesn't have the same exact powers in a place like Chicago, but he does have the National Guard at his disposal to help American cities. We saw him already do this to an extent in L.A., and he should be doing a lot more of it, I think. I love this. I think the American people need rescues in these Democrat-run cities to the extent that the president can help save them. And Chicago is a place where that clearly needs to happen. Last year in Chicago, there were about 30,000 violent crimes on the streets. 30,000. Now, if you're from Chicago, you don't have to imagine what that's like. But for the rest of us, just imagine what that's like. to go through a great American city that is absolutely beset by criminality and destruction. The people of Chicago want the rescue. They want it. And it's all over the place. Take a look here. Cut one. Here's a Chicago resident saying there's no control in this city. We don't have law and order right now.
The National Guard has to come here, even if it's for a scare tactic. They have to come here. There's no control. There's no law and order.
They have to come here, even if it's for a scare tactic. I completely agree. 100%. I completely agree with that sentiment. Bring them there just to serve as a visible reminder that bad guys will be held accountable, that you don't want to mess with law enforcement. You don't want to break the law when there are people who are standing by to enforce it. Just to send that visual reminder is enough. Now, of course, I should say it's not enough. You do have to actually arrest people and prosecute them. But having that visual there, that's a big deal. Just as a scare tactic, at the very least, that's a big deal. That resident is right about that. Here's more. CNN tried to get one Chicago resident to actually say out loud that Chicago is safe. Oh, Chicago's totally safe. The media keeps saying things like, oh, crime is down. Crime has been at absolutely nightmarish levels in Chicago. Even if crime is actually down, and I don't trust data coming out of Chicago as far as I can throw it, but even if crime was, quote, coming down, going from a massacre to a lesser massacre doesn't change the fact that it's a massacre. It's out of control, and it needs to be fixed, and the people of Chicago agree. Here's CNN trying to get a Chicago resident to say, actually, the city's safe. Take a look.
My first reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need.
The crime has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all. No, especially with the police being defunded.
Nope. No, not at all. I love the CNN lady. But crime has dropped. Don't you agree that's wonderful? Nope. No, I live here. I don't know where you're from, but I live here, and it's not going well. I'd like for it to be a lot better than it is. So good for her for being honest. You notice? And that was probably the end of the interview. Okay, thanks. Moving on. A Chicago resident, I've got another one. A Chicago resident urging President Trump to deploy the National Guard. And if you're watching on the video, you may be able to tell. These are black residents of Chicago. The media claim that black Chicago residents would be horrified by the president dispatching law enforcement, that it would be some sort of racist exercise. How would it be racist to send law enforcement in? If black communities are beset by violence, how is it racist to rescue them from that violence? Explain it to me. Speak carefully and slowly so I can understand. Insanity. Here's another Chicago resident urging the president to deploy the National Guard. Cut 3. Look at this.
Our children can't walk around the community without fear of being hurt or kidnapped or having a drive-by. So it's what these numbers that they're expressing, we don't feel it in our quality of life.
Yeah, that's right. The numbers that CNN is telling you, oh, crime is down. It's actually way better in Chicago than it used to be. That dude's like, no, I'm not feeling that. That's not happening. We need the National Guard here. The president should send them in. J.B. Pritzker is the fat-ass governor of Illinois, and he doesn't like Trump because Trump tells the truth about how badly J.B. Pritzker has sold his own state out, including and especially Chicago. Pritzker was standing out in front of Chicago's Trump Tower earlier this week. It was really funny, talking about how safe the city is. I went for a walk with my wife. We went to dinner. It was totally safe. You jerk. Every governor is surrounded by security, usually provided by the state police in the state. You think that you're in an unsafe situation? You have armed guards around you. Nobody else has that. Everyone else has to fend for themselves. You've got armed guards all around you at all time, which is wild. And so that's how J.B. Pritzker moves around. Here, listen to this woman, cut 4. This is another Chicago resident saying, you want to hold a real news conference? You want to talk about real Chicago? Do it on the South Side. Take a look. Here you go. Cut 4.
So I I just finished watching an interview of Governor Pritzker of Chicago telling President Trump not to send the military into Chicago after President Trump announced that he could potentially be sending the military to Chicago next after he sent them into Washington, D.C., which, by the way, after he sent them into Washington, D.C., the crime rate has reportedly exponentially went down. So you have this governor, he was standing on a boat, you guys, taking questions from the press. This dude is on a boat saying how safe it is in Chicago. And we, as you can see, don't have any problems. It's safe. I just walked to down the street to dinner with my wife. And he's taking an interview on a boat. And he's taking an interview downtown in Chicago.
Yep.
Why didn't you have that interview on the South Side, sir? Okay? Why don't you go to the South Side and have that interview so we can really see the streets of Chicago and how things are going on in Chicago? Because for years it's been reported that Chicago has had one of the highest murder rates.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you go do it where the crime is? Old Governor J.B. Pritzker, Governor Jelly Belly. Why don't you just go do something for the people of your state? You're the governor of Illinois, and you've got a war zone in your state. Why don't you do something about it? You know why, of course. Governor Jelly Belly does not want to go to the dangerous areas because he doesn't want to help the people in those dangerous areas. He's kind of scared of those dangerous areas to begin with. And the last thing he wants to do is reveal to you how badly he has failed the people who live in those communities. So no, instead, he'll stand in front of something nice like, I don't know, Trump Tower in Chicago. It turns out it's nice around Trump Tower. Huh, weird. I'd like to see the Trump Tower effect spread out to the rest of Chicago. I think the president would as well. So this is what people want. They want an intervention to help save their city. And the sooner the president can get to that, the better. We saw reports this past week that the National Guard, the United States Pentagon, is drawing up plans to move thousands of National Guard troops into Chicago. That can't come soon enough. Chicago needs the help. Let's get it to them. They want it. You hear the invites? I see all the invitations coming out. People who actually live there would like a rescue. That's good news. We'll keep track of that as it goes. I have another thing I want to hit with you today that is cause of. I talked about my eyebrow popping. My eyebrow popped when I saw this story this past week. The president of the United States this week said that he is going to allow 600,000 Chinese students to come into the United States. Did that catch your attention at all, chat? 600,000 Chinese students to come into the United States. These are Chinese foreign nationals, not people becoming American citizens. These are people who are retaining their Chinese citizenship, Chinese nationality, and they're going to come into the United States, join our education system, and that's going to be all well and good. That's the position we're taking here. Here's the president, cut 7, talking about this earlier this week. Take a look.
I hear so many stories about we're not going to allow their students, or we're going to allow their students to come in. We're going to allow, it's very important, 600,000 students. It's very important. But we're going to get along with China. But it's a different relationship that we have now with China. It's a much better relationship economically.
Wow, 600,000. Now, if you go back in time just a short while ago to May of this year, one of the things you figure out is that the Trump administration was cracking down on this. Take a look. This is from May 28th of this year. The United States Department of State released a statement from Marco Rubio at the time saying new visa policies put America first, not China. And the position of Marco Rubio, as stated here, is under President Trump's leadership, the U.S. State Department will work with the Department of Homeland Security to aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. We will also revise visa criteria to enhance scrutiny of all future visa application from the People's Republic of China and Hong Kong. Okay, so the position in May was we need to crack down on all of these Chinese foreign nationals being in our country. The position now in August is we need to allow more of them in. At this moment, public reports indicate that there are 270,000 Chinese nationals in our higher education system as we speak. 270,000. So what the president said this week is 600,000. That is, for those of you who can do the math on this, more than twice as many the number of Chinese foreign nationals who are already inside of our higher education system right now. Now, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was on television 2 nights ago now talking about this with Laura Ingraham, who asked about this. Like, what's the deal? You're gonna let all of these people into the country right now? And his answer to that question was, well, yeah, sure we are. In fact, the reason we're doing that is because if we didn't, that the school system would suffer as a result of this. And higher education wouldn't be doing well. In fact, 15% of the schools would shut down. Well, okay, so what's the problem with that? Why would that be an issue? These schools are by and large corrupt. We don't need all of that. How is this America first? Take a look here. I want to show this to you. I'm going to pull this up on my screen. Here is Laura Ingraham asking Howard Lutnick why we need to allow 600,000 Chinese nationals into the country. Look at this.
It's very important.
Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, how is allowing 600,000 students from the communist country of China putting America first?
Well, the president's point of view is that what would happen if you didn't have those 600,000 students is that you'd empty them from the top. All the students would go up to better schools, and the bottom 15% of universities and colleges would go out of business in America.
Good.
So his view is he's taking a rational economic view, which is classic Donald Trump, looking at higher education and saying,
but why are you
until
helping
we
Harvard?
Modify that.
That just
What's
helps
that?
Harvard and UCLA and UCal Berkeley and I mean you're all helping those schools. Why? They're like, basically factories of anti-American propaganda. And now they're getting a big influx of cash because of the Chinese students. I know President Trump has always been very pro-Chinese student. I just don't understand it for the life of me. Those are 600,000 spots that American kids won't get.
Amen.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm involved in changing the H-1B program.
Okay, so he goes on to other issues, trying to dance out of this, but it is an important issue. It is a very, very important issue. It means a lot to us. And here's why. Think about why this is an issue. It's not merely that they're from China. Nobody's mad that they were born in China. That's not the reason people are concerned about this. People are concerned about this because of the power that the Chinese Communist Party wields over its own nationals. It's as simple as that. The Chinese have passed national security laws just by decree from the Communist Party declaring that if you are a Chinese national and you are in a country like the United States, in a foreign country, and you are called upon at any point by the Chinese Communist Party to serve its espionage purposes in the United States, you have to do it, or else your family back home will be subjected to consequences for your failure to heed the commands of the Chinese Communist Party. It's not me saying this. It's people who were born in China who say this. Chinese-born Republican candidate Lily Tang Williams, she's an American now, but she was born in China. She was on television this week, and she said letting these Chinese students in is not a good idea. Cut 6. Take a look at this.
People have to understand there are different kinds of Chinese students. People like me who come here in the 80s, 90s, really want to come here, live under freedom and mental free for opportunities, have better lives. Then later, after China joined the WTO, the students come here, they are the wealthy, powerful children, and they come here with a certain test to perform. Now with Xi Jinping's Chinese national security and intelligence laws, they have to actually assist to perform tasks the Chinese government asks them to perform. Otherwise, there will be serious consequences. Anybody who carry Chinese passport is potentially need to be very carefully vetted. And so I think this is not a good idea for our country right now. And plus, we have so many come in during the Biden years through the southern border. And where are they? Are they all out of the country yet? And are they vetted?
Okay. All right. So it's a great commentary there. This is important. Now, this, of course, has been animating me. I've been thinking about this a lot. And I said, man, what is going on here? So You remember, those of you who saw the podcast this past week, we had Reagan Reese. She's my White House correspondent at the Daily Caller on the show, and we talked to her about what it's like being at the White House all the time. And it just so happens that Reagan went to the cabinet meeting yesterday. She got to be in there during the cabinet meeting for 3 hours and asked the president a number of questions. And when I talked to Reagan yesterday morning about this, one of the things that I was really interested in, I was like, Reagan, if you get a chance, would you ask him why it is that Marco Rubio was trying to go after all of these visas for Chinese foreign nationals and why now the president seems to be expanding them to 600,000. What? Can we get some clarity on this? And sure enough, thankfully, Reagan did get an opportunity to ask this question yesterday. Here is the president of the United States, Cut 5, giving an answer to Reagan about what his position is here.
We're getting along very well with China. And I'm getting along very well with President Xi. I think it's very insulting to say students can't come here because they'll go out and they'll start building schools and they'll be able to survive it. But I like that their students come here. I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. You'd have, and it wouldn't be the top colleges. It would be colleges that struggle on the bottom. And you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system. I like having, and I told this to President Xi, that we're honored to have their students here. Now, with that, we check and we're careful and we see who's there, and Marco wants that. We spoke, we're in the same position. But we have a tremendous college system, the best in the world, nobody even close. That's why China sends them here.
A couple of thoughts about this. One, he didn't offer more clarity on how he came to this position. He just said, look, we should bring them in, and it's good. It's a good support system for the bottom 15% of colleges in the country to keep them in business. I'm going to tell you right up front, that's not good enough for me. If that's the core rationale, it's not good enough for me. The bottom 15% of colleges in the United States are scams. Let me be really clear about that. The bottom 15% of colleges in the country are scams. Higher education in the United States of America has far too many con jobs involved with it. We should have fewer universities for higher education, and they need to be of better quality. They need to actually be teaching things that give people real life skills that they can carry on into the future. No question whatsoever. At the upper end especially, we need to strip out the government-funded propaganda in those high-level colleges that create the elites in our country, that generate the ruling class. We need to strip all the propaganda out of that because that propaganda has been totally destructive to the country. And in fact, China has been in the business of funding the propaganda at those institutions through things like Confucius Institutes designed to mislead the ruling class about the dangers of communism and the adversarial nature of China. So we need to get rid of all of that. Now, here's what I'll say about the president of the United States on this and what I think is actually going on. If this were Kamala Harris telling us that she wants to bring in 600,000 Chinese students, I think you and I could safely conclude rather instantly that's because she's on the take, she's rooting against us, she's making some sort of cruel financial benefit from all of this, and it's at our expense that she's benefiting. It'd be easy to do the analysis on that. With Trump, it's more complicated. Here he is saying he wants to bring in 600,000 Chinese nationals. For what purpose? What broader goal does this serve? Because you know the president. The president has made it really clear through his dogged persistence on our behalf. He does care about America first. He's not sitting there thinking, how can I benefit China first? He's sitting there thinking, how can I benefit America first? So it is crystal clear to me, even though I don't know all the details right now, that this is a move on a chessboard. This is designed to reach some sort of broader deal with China that exists to our benefit in the president's mind. Now, does it mean that I am enthralled with the fact that he wants to bring in 600,000 Chinese nationals? No, especially given the history of the Chinese Communist Party and the way that they can wield those people against us. I think this is awful. I don't want this at all. I hope it gets reversed entirely. But as I'm assessing the president's behavior here, it is important always to take a breath, let the man work, and let him come with the deliverable that he's pursuing. There's clearly something going on here. and I eagerly await whatever that is. But in the meantime, I just want to register my objection to 600,000 commies being brought into the country. Is that safe? Is that fair? You like that, chat? Is that the good assessment? I see some holds in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. But if you think I'm not going to seek answers, you're insane. Of course I'm going to seek answers. That's why I called Reagan yesterday. I'm like, you're at this meeting? Ask him about China. What the hell is going on with this China thing? She did. That's the answer we got with the president. We'll keep pushing, as always, on Vince. It's great to have you with us on this program. You're the best damn audience in media. You really are. We got another big show for you tomorrow. We're coming into Labor Day weekend. It's going to be a blast. I hope you have big plans for the Labor Day weekend. And we got the big radio show today, The Vince Show. Again, go to thevinceshow.com, find your local radio listings, or join me, rumble.com/Vince. We do it live on camera. As Bill O'Reilly once said, we'll do it live. Great to have you with us, as always. Back tomorrow. Talk to you soon. Up next here on Rumble, Steven Crowder's doing his thing.